Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It's Monday, July 16th, and I know that it's been a while. I think it's 5 weeks. I meant to double check that number, and I'll explain why. I literally might be the last Flosstuber who was at StitchCon to make a Flosstube video after StitchCon. I think there's a few others that have claimed that, but I've watched them, and now here I am. We'll see. So let me just get this part out of the way so I can move on, because when I've waited 5 weeks, I realized that I have a lot to show, and a lot of it necessarily isn't, I mean, some of it is StitchCon related, but there's been things after StitchCon. A little over a week after StitchCon, my mom passed away, and you know, it's somewhere a cross between unexpected and expected. And she had been in the hospital for a couple of weeks at that point. And without going into too much of the details there, I am just so grateful for those in the stitching community who have known about this and have reached out to me in support. It has meant a great deal. It has shown me, not that I needed more evidence of it, but it has shown me the power of friendships and support that has come from this community. And I'll go ahead and say, in some ways, even more than some friends and people in my life that are in my real world life, what it has meant to me. I grew up in Connecticut. My parents still live in the house that our family moved to when I was about 9 or 10. I have two sisters and their families. They and their families each live about a half hour away, one in Connecticut, one just across the border in New York. I was up there for over a week. So for me, it's about 3 hours away. So the last few weeks have been rough and just not, I'll say, what the beginning of summer was expected. So that put off the timing of all kinds of things, including a Flosstube video. But I'm going to move on from there. And I, again, just want to thank those of you who reached out to me. I very much appreciate it. We all have our different relationships with our families, with our parents. We all go through different things, and you know, what does it mean for an adult to lose their parent? I'm still working through that. So moving on here, and I have a long list to share. The last Flosstube video I did was my lace with me, which isn't right to call it that because you weren't making lace. So it was you stitch while I make lace, and I so appreciated how well received that was. I wasn't sure. So I will definitely do that again. I have some ideas on, I figured out some other ways to kind of adjust and film without a whole expense of equipment. So when I do it again, I have a sort of a different angle that I'm going to try, or maybe a couple different ones. I was thinking, oh, I'll do a few minutes of footage of that, but I think this is already a long enough list that I'll save lace for another video. So again, thank you to those that enjoyed and showed the interest in my last video. Let me start with StitchCon, because that last video was just about a week or so before StitchCon, and I will jump in from there. So at this point, if you follow any, so some of you are probably new to me because maybe we met each other at StitchCon. I loved that obviously I met lots of people who didn't do Flosstube. I loved that I was meeting Flosstubers that I didn't know, and some that I'd heard people talking about and just hadn't gotten to watching your videos. And I'll give one great example, is the Kitchen Stitchers. I just yesterday, the day before, watched, and it's three friends doing a Flosstube together. And just like anytime you've seen the duos, the pairs that have done, some pairs that are out there that do them, to see the three of them, and the interactions on screen is just wonderful. But there were some other floss tubers that I just, in my Flosstube travels, had not really encountered, and are just such wonderful people. So there are some great StitchCon videos out there, and you can see, if you are interested, the full contents of the bag that we got, of the freebie charts and everything that was in there. You will see plenty of people drinking from their StitchCon tumblers, all kinds of beverages that came from there. You will see plenty of people using their StitchCon pens. I seem to have picked up one every time I walked by, and I think I have 3 of them. You can find plenty of opportunities to see. I did a better job at taking pictures than I did at the New Jersey retreat, and it was more in the spirit of trying to capture the moment. And I'm going to describe some of those moments I was trying to capture as I go through the things I am going to share. If you are interested in seeing things like a great video of the, they call the brag table, like show and share, bring what you want to share in terms of your stitching. The first person that comes to mind, Diana, It Is Kismet, and I'll talk about her more than once probably during this video. Her StitchCon video, about the first half of it is her on screen talking, sharing, showing stuff, and about the second half is, or whatever the mounts are, is her video from the weekend. And she did a whole bunch at the shop at Keepsakes. She did a whole bunch at the venue, including tables and the stitching people had and all kinds of stuff. Who else had footage? Anyway, if you need to know, if you need to know where can I find StitchCon videos, you know, leave it in the comments below, and I'll list out a few that I have watched. And I can't, because my last few weeks have been a little thrown off. I'm not 100% sure I've actually seen all that are out there, but I know I've seen a number of them. So I need to share with you the things that are more personal about it, the experience to me. Keeping in mind that I went to this retreat having come just 5 weeks previous from the New Jersey retreat that I put on. So being able to go to a retreat where I wasn't in charge was huge, that I could just be a participant. And knowing the pieces from New Jersey that I'm going to say wish could be different, but not different, just that because I wasn't in charge, that I knew I could do differently, like spend a little more time trying to be with people, because I wasn't worried about this, that, or the other in going on, and so on, and just trying to take every moment and soak it up. And so I'll start with a story that is so important. You have probably seen in folks' videos. This StitchCon logo, which you saw on the bag and the cup and everything, was also given to us as a chart to stitch. And you might have even seen some folks who have stitched it, or you might have seen the picture. They had 3 different models that had been stitched. And I don't know who stitched them. I know Sue Hillis didn't stitch them because I asked her that directly. Anyway, and I knew that I would want to stitch it because it's the spirit of a souvenir. And then this amazing thing happened. So if you have watched certain videos, on Friday afternoon I had the wonderful experience of going thrifting with McKenna, Jen, Felicity Stitches, and Michelle, Bendy Stitchy. And you know, these are some of the people that are my friends, the group, and there's a number of people that my tribe, my people, and to see all the times that McKenna has talked about thrifting, and to see her thrift finds and everything, but to get to go to a thrift shop with her and watch her in action, that was something we knew we wanted to do. I mean, she and I had vaguely talked about it for New Jersey, but also knew it wasn't going to happen because needed to be at the hotel the whole time. Anyway, so I'd gotten a rental car, which was well used by lots of people, and it was such a great thing to have. And so we did go to a thrift shop, and you may have heard the story. I believe it was Michelle and Jen had found this green linen dress, and at first they were debating, like, Jen, do you like the dress? And then it became this linen. Could you stitch on this linen? I wonder what count the linen would be. And so the dress was purchased, and Jen confirmed that she was not going to wear the dress. But then I was really intrigued by the idea, could we stitch on this dress? And so Friday night, and it was pretty late on Friday night, the first step was trying to figure out what was the count of the linen. And so there I am trying to use the magnifiers that I had and just, some DMC and figuring out, can you see this, with this purple thread, that this was me stitching over 2. And it's 24, so it was basically a 48 count linen. And this is a dress fabric linen. This is not linen that you buy at a cross stitch shop. So, and I could tell, I mean, these were not nice cross stitches. These were, I was struggling with the fabric threads. But I knew I wanted to do this. So determined that calling it a 48 count linen fabric, we cut up the dress and gave out pieces of this linen to anyone who was interested in this idea. And here's a story that for me is part of the spirit of this event. So now it's about 11 o'clock at night, even later, the whole experience of like cutting up the dress and everything, we took a lot of time doing this. We were laughing. Other conversations were happening at the same time. Cut it up. And then, I thought, I'm going to do this. I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And then I thought, if I don't start this at StitchCon, I don't know if I'm really going to do it. And realized that the only threads I had with me were, the ones that were very specific to the project that I brought, which I'll share in a minute, or projects that I brought with me, and nothing was going to work on a green linen. And then the comment was, Arlene, you're in a room full of thread. Something's going to work. And everyone's like throwing their DMCs and whatever they had, and realized that the vision I had was just sort of a light, like ecru or off color, like off-white kind of color. And a couple people had like ecru and stuff. And then it was, well, out there in the outer space, outside the space of the main stitching room was the trunk shows, and one of them was color and cotton. I was a color and cotton virgin, folks. I had never had any color and cotton thread. I know many people get their monthly flosses, and it's beautiful thread. I went out there and pulled a few possibilities and brought them in and laid them out. And again, the spirit of this story was getting a few tables of, or at least a table and a half of opinions of, what do you think of this, this, yep. And how many people knew that this was Stonehenge? This thread. Yes, yep, that's it. So people, I had a new start at StitchCon at 1 in the morning. Never in my life have I started a new project at 1 in the morning, let alone one that was this small. Now, this is the actual one that I started. And I had said to myself that, all right, I'm going to get one letter in, and I'm going to make a decision whether or not I'm going to keep going with this. Because it was, again, this is not even linen. This was a pain, and I could even tell, even as I was doing this like, part of it was really hard, but then it was really easy on another area just because of where it was on the linen fabric. And even people seeing me the next day working on this S, like Michelle, when she went to the store, she came back with some green thread that matched it and has this, I don't know what she's going to end up doing, but has this idea to do the logo and use this like as the backing fabric or something. When I came home from StitchCon, I really wanted to persevere with this. I really wanted to make this project work. I had taken a second piece of the green fabric and I started it over, and I did it. And so here is the StitchCon logo, and the logo you will see has a needle stitched right there. And with this size fabric, it just looked stupid. And so I just used a real needle, which I feel like at least one of the models might have done that. And so the needle I used there is basically the needle I used to stitch it. And maybe it was starting it over. There was definitely a counting mistake in this, and I wasn't going to pull it out. And when I started to do the T, I realized that there was a counting mistake, and I stopped. I was so exhausted because there was not that much sleep happening at StitchCon. But I loved that I did this. I just love that I have this whole experience, that this fabric, the thrift store experience, that night of laughing while the cutting up of the dress was happening and all of that, the start of it, the start at 1 in the morning, the whole going to Barbara the next day and saying, I need to pay you for some color and cotton that I purchased at 1 in the morning, and telling her the story of this. This is a treasured memory of the StitchCon experience. And for me, it's a lot of pieces like this that are part of experiences like that. So that's an important piece to share. I know that a number of people who have shared StitchCon videos have talked about the freebie table. If you have been watching my videos, you probably have figured out I don't buy a lot of stuff, and I don't purchase patterns, and I mean, it was fun to look through the things. Everyone found different things that appeal to them, which is so wonderful. That's what I loved. I loved, if you hadn't heard, I forget, did I share this? I was able to send a pretty large box of leftovers from the freebie table at our New Jersey retreat, got sent to the freebie table at StitchCon. And I believe some of the leftovers from StitchCon is going to get passed to sort of the next retreat. And I love that, you know, pass the stash on a larger level kind of thinking. But I just want to share with you the spirit of there's something for everyone. For me, what intrigues me are magazines, and not necessarily magazines where I'm going to stitch a pattern from them. This New Stitches magazine, which I don't think still exists, and I meant to look that up, but someone's going to, I'm sure, comment below, to pick up a whole bunch of issues and just enjoy the articles that are in them. You know, for me, that's a thrill from the freebie table. And McKenna loved spending more time with you. I mean, for her to find, this is like an old DMC publication. I couldn't, published in Sweden, but I could not figure out a date, but it's got color in it, so, you know, it's not super duper old. But I love these kind of old things. You know, for her to have found this, other people have mentioned this whole idea of shopping for other people from the freebie table. You know, for her to find this and say, Arlene, I thought you might be interested in this. Yeah. There was a set of stretcher bars, small, like I could imagine some cross-stitcher tried using stretcher bars. I think they were like 6 inches by 7 inches or something, and clearly they didn't like them, put them on the freebie table. I would so love a set of small stretcher bars for small canvas work pieces. They're in my home now. So having those kinds of things are just wonderful. Aside from the one thing of color and cotton thread, and trust me, I could have gone crazy, particularly with the color and cotton thread, but I just don't. The only other thing that I purchased was one of these, and if you haven't seen them already, it's 3 inches, and you can use it to, you know, if you're going to do a corner start, you can use it to hold threads. It's a souvenir, people. And yes, I know we were given stuff. I treasure something a friend of mine told me. This was many years ago. I was visiting her. We had gone to a museum. We saw an exhibit. I was hemming and hawing in the gift shop about purchasing the book, the exhibit book, the catalog book that went with the exhibit, and just in that moment in time, it turned out to be the perfectly right thing to purchase that book. And I remember her talking to me about the origin of the word souvenir, and I believe I'm saying this correctly. It's from the French, and it means to remember. And I think about that a lot when it comes to experiences like StitchCon Stitching Retreat, the things that I want to treasure and remember. I mean, some of them are in my mind, in my memory, and some of them I will use as, you know, a physical object that I will use to help remember things. So there were also some lovely gifts that were given. A wonderful, sweet shout out to, I think I'm saying this correctly, Johnny Miller, who came up to me, and I know she came up to a number of others, to give us sweet strawberries and said simply, "Thank you for making your Flosstube video. I love watching you." And I got that from so many people. Don't get me wrong, not everybody there watched everybody's Flosstubes. There were some people that had no idea who I was. That's okay. There's lots of people I didn't know. But for the handful of people who said such nice things to me, it was just so touching, and I really, really so appreciated it. There was at least probably 5 or 6, if not more, people who said, "Well, did you bring your bobbin lace?" And of course, I wish that I had. I mean, I do own a small, what can be called a travel pillow that I now know that the next time I go to a retreat, and I hope there will be a next time, I need to make sure I have a small project set up and take my bobbin lace, because there is some interest in seeing it, and I'm glad that I can provide that interest in the stitching world. But whether it's a physical object from someone, or whether it's just kind words, that alone was another piece that made StitchCon really special to me. It happened in New Jersey as well. I just heard those words in so many different ways, because I was also the organizer, I was also the one that was emailing everybody and posting all kinds of things. So it came to me in different ways in New Jersey. Many of you have seen or heard or know that Michelle Mitch Stitch came from Australia. And so to get a little Australian gift from her, a little souvenir, a little a recognition of the friendship made with her during that time. If you've watched me, if you watched McKenna, you know how the friendship between us has evolved. And you know, and this is, you know how thrifting goes with her. She found this at some time in the past. This is crocheted lace, but it's pretty fine. I mean, this is small. This is 6 inches. So this is like professionally framed. This little piece of crocheted lace meant something. Somebody wants to sell me something, and I'm ignoring that phone. This little crocheted lace meant something to somebody. It was professionally framed in this beautiful frame. And McKenna found it at a thrift store and brought it to me. And so, you know, this kind of thing is a treasure when gifts like this are given. And the last piece of so the other thing that I will always remember about StitchCon is getting home from StitchCon, because Cincinnati didn't want me to leave. I had I had a flight that was supposed to leave about 6:30 on Sunday evening. I drove to the airport with Diana. She had a flight home around the same time. When we dropped the rental car off and got, you know, on the shuttle to the airport, when I checked my phone, I saw that my flight had been delayed like 3 hours. I was like, all right, you know, settled myself, you know, spent some time with Diana, sent her off on her flight, and settled myself in for a little bit of time, and was actually chatting because a fair number of my group, a number of people were staying till Monday, whether it was travel arrangements or their own specific reasons. There was a group of people that were still staying till Monday. And so in the middle of chatting with them, I get a text, and it was 3 texts, but they came in the wrong order. So the first text I get is, "You have been rebooked on a flight Monday at 6 a.m. The first text was, "Your flight has been canceled." And then, you know, and because it was canceled due to weather, and they said it was weather in Newark or on the East Coast or somewhere in between, and the flight that was supposed to come from Newark to Cincinnati and then leave from Cincinnati to go back to Newark was never coming to Cincinnati. And there were 2 other flights still leaving that night, but they were all filled already. You know, this is the whole thing. I'm looking into everything. It took me some time. You know, I'm sort of freaking out. When in the part of the messages, I had said to my friends, oh my God, my flight's just been canceled and I've been rebooked. And their immediate reaction was, come back to the hotel. We've got a bed for you. Because there was. And I don't have that much travel experience. The only other time, I mean, I've had times where flights have been delayed, maybe once or twice canceled. There's only one other time that I can remember that it was canceled such that it was rebooked to the next day. And that was a case where it was the airline's fault, and they did provide a hotel and like a meal voucher. This one they were saying was weather issues. They weren't giving you anything. And, you know, I don't know if I had, I don't know what, if the circumstances had been different, but to know that, okay, I'm getting an Uber and going right back there, and to be welcomed with open arms. And I was exhausted and emotional, but yet was able to be back there with my people, and they were able to help me kind of figure out how to get back to the airport and make that all happen. And yeah, if I ever had to have a little, it's not the worst nightmare in the world, but if I ever had to have a travel nightmare, to have it happen when I was with friends like that. I just need to go back in the stitching gift world, or gift world. When I was at the airport the first time on Sunday, when I was still with Diana, before she left, we were just walking, and I said, oh, could we just go in here? One of those like gift shops. Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, because it's like right on the border, local stuff. And I explained to her what I was looking for, which I didn't find. I said, well, I have this small, like, cheesy, touristy thimble collection. And if I could find one for Cincinnati, and it's only for places that I've been to that have special meaning to me. There's only one other time I was able to get one at an airport after an experience. And we briefly, I mean, I was able to do a quick circle around. They didn't have it in there. And, you know, little thimbles, those little thimbles like that are not as easy to find anymore. They're not the typical souvenir thing. And after Diana left, and again, before my flight got canceled, I was moved to another terminal, and I found one other place to look, and I couldn't find anything, and I let it go. It wasn't my biggest mission to find one. A couple days later, I got a package in the mail. Diana, sweet, sweet Diana, went online and got me this. And so this collection, there's only 10, or maybe this is the 11th one. And again, it's all about places that I've been for very special experiences. And now this, again, it's like the glass, or thimbles. And now this is there. Thank you so much, Diana. Stitching. Okay. In addition to starting the StitchCon, well, all right, so before going to StitchCon, let me back up. Before going to StitchCon, I think during the my bobbin lace video, I had shown you where I was, and I finished this design. So this is one of my patterns. If you're new, I design, I sell through an Etsy store called worksbyabc. This is a pattern I put out last fall called 3 Lacy Squares. This is the first of the 3 that I've stitched. It is my intention, this is all folded up nicely, but it's a long piece right here, and I will stitch, boom, all 3 of them like this. So this one is this one right here. And I so I finished this, and it was at this, I don't know, a week or so before StitchCon. I was like, you know what? If I just focus on this, I could get this done, and then it could just be another one of my models. My Works by ABC pieces were one of the trunk shows, which I so appreciate Barbara from Keepsakes supporting me in my design work and making that, and the people who purchased my designs. So I want to have this one, you know, eventually I will have all three, and it'll get framed and be part of a trunk shows for the future. So this one got finished. And then, also, I guess I finished this, and I was like, I need to, I'm starting, should I jump in with this? Sure, why not? I have been, again, some things have gotten thrown off a bit in the last few weeks, but I have been working on new designs. So I'm going to pause right here and say, as I have done in previous videos, I want to do a giveaway when I come out with new designs. I wanted to say to myself it would be by the end of July. I think my goal is going to be the first week of August. I think that's more reasonable. On whatever video it is that I'm going to introduce the next set of new designs, I'm going to give away some designs. If you would like to be entered in a giveaway, please leave a comment below. Say anything you want, comment on anything you want. Just include your initials in that comment. I named my design business Works by ABC. My initials are ABC. So that's the way I have done giveaways before. And that way, you know, feel free to leave a comment without your initials if it's not something you're interested in. Before StitchCon, I was trying to get started on designing my next canvas work piece. I needed the stretcher bars that this little Or Nuée piece was on. So I was like, you know what? I need to finish that Or Nuée piece. So this got finished in time for StitchCon. Now, if I do that, maybe you can see how like shiny the thread is. So a few videos ago, and it's in the thumbnail, so you'd have to, like, if you looked at my videos and just looked for the thumbnail, I'm pretty sure it's in the thumbnail, you'd see, and I talk a little bit about this, it's a type of gold work. I actually brought this to put on the table, you know, at StitchCon, everyone brought mostly, if not almost entirely, cross-stitch. Absolutely, that's the majority of people do cross-stitch. And like the night before, I messaged a couple of friends and I said, you know, I just don't have any small, easily portable cross-stitch to bring. And I had three little things. One was black work, one was this gold work, and one was a little hardanger piece. And I said, okay, does it just stand out that I do like, does this just make me look weird, or does it just emphasize the fact that I do lots of different things? And they said, it emphasizes the fact you do lots of different things. And so I just brought the things that I did. So anyway, this is a type of gold work, and done what I would say in slightly not traditional materials, particularly that this is done on what's called Congress cloth. But this piece is now done. I did it using a chart that was a cross-stitch chart. Will I do more Or Nuée? I don't know. We'll see. It was, I'm glad I could say I've now tried the technique. I was looking when I was in Michael's the other day, I saw there's some pretty tiny frames that exist, and I'll have to see if any of them match up size-wise. So these two were actually finished right before StitchCon. Okay, so then, what did I bring to stitch on when I was at StitchCon? A couple of things. I brought what is absolutely the sort of no-brainer kind of stitching to bring. I had this at the New Jersey retreat where I had like one squared on. This is another one of my designs called the Coloris. And you can see I'm not starting at the top. I'm starting with the purples just because. And I didn't do that much stitching, but it was, you know, it's basically no-brainer stitching. Ran into this interesting thing. I think it was like the night before I started to stitch this. Now, I'm about to say this word. Mauve. Is it mauve or mauve? I was Googling this right before starting this video because we could have a whole discussion about this. And it actually shows up as one of the words that like Americans pronounce in different ways. Some people will say mauve in America and mauve in Britain, but then a lot of websites said even American English, it should be pronounced mauve to rhyme with stove. I mean, that's what I saw in a number of places, rhyme with stove. I don't know what's right. Call it whatever you want, okay? This word right here, what color do you think it is? Because when I started stitching using the thread that I'd originally picked out, I decided, no, that's not it. Excuse me. I knew it needed, I knew it needed to be more, you need to have more pinky to it, but not super pink. So I stopped. I need to pull this out. But it got me on this whole, I knew, so when I was at StitchCon, people thought I was going to finish working on this. I'm like, no, I need to change colors. But what color do you think it should be? And there were some interesting discussions. Well, it turned out when I came home, I was doing quite a lot of like research on this. And if I could just pause and just point out to you, it becomes a really interesting conversation about color, which there's lots of good conversations to be had about color. But I'm just going to show you the variety that I found in books on color. So for example, this is a book, one of many books I have about color. This is a page about mauve, that shows it to be, in my mind, more on the pinky side of purple. Okay. Here is a color scheme Bible. This is, they talk home interior kind of things and design schemes and so on. And here's a page, you know, if you read all the fine print and stuff. Here we go. Hold it back here. This main color back here. They're claiming this main color back here is mauve. That seems too purple lavender to me. Okay. This is a book called The Brilliant History of Color and Art. This is fascinating because it goes through colors that have an origin to them. And this color, if you didn't know, has an origin. It's from a chemistry issue. Now look at this page alone. Now, granted, color can fade and change over time, but look at the difference between this dress, mauve silk day dress from Great Britain or France, 1873, and this painting, Portrait of the Marquise de Mariemont, from 1866. And they're saying both of these are mauve. There's this little mauve sample from the American Practical Dyer's Companion, awfully lavender to me. Anyway, this tells the story of how, from a chemistry perspective, how the color was born. The Secret Language of Color. Here's a dress dyed with the Perkins mauve dye, and that's, you know, sort of part of the history. Perkins original mauve dye. Like, now to me, this color is what my brain, I think, thinks of when it comes to mauve. And, where'd it go? Then you go to DMC world, because as stitchers, our common language is often DMC. Now DMC, I think I'm saying this right, won't claim to use words for their colors. You can find charts online, and I mean, plenty of people will use the same charts, and they're just like not quite DMC approved, so to speak. But in those charts, this is the newest color card, so if you have like a different version, you might find them in a different order or something. But on this color card, on most of those charts that you find, this range right here, 3689, 3688, 3687, 3803, 3685 is called mauve, which is awfully pink to me, or, you know, stretches on the pink side to me. And this range right here, 3726, or maybe even starting with the 316. Maybe it's this whole range starting here. 315, 3802, 902. This range is called antique mauve. Nope, not over here. No, sorry, here. So mauve and antique mauve are the words you could find if you found one of those word charts. So where did I put it? What will I end up using? Well, again, it's a really fascinating, and then, so what I believe I'm going with is 3726. This one matches as closely as I believe to a Pantone color. So that's a whole nother color discussion of Pantone colors being, am I saying that correctly, Pantone? Being like a standard language. And I will also wonder as I progress through this project, because this is not going to be, I mean, this is one that is like a no-brainer project. When I'm feeling the need to not think, that's when this is going to come out. And I will see how many other colors that I'll say quickly, you know, made decisions. How many others I'm going to like be really researching and agonizing over once I come to stitching them. Hopefully not too many, but researching mauve, however you pronounce it, became one of those things. Stitching. Oh, okay, so now still on stitching things here. So then the most recent thing I've been working on, again, this is, not again, erase what I just started to say, a little preview of a new design. If you go back, probably the video before the New Jersey retreat video, maybe even 2 videos before that, I shared a filet lace tablecloth that I bought in Antiques Mall, and I have turned that into a cross-stitch design, and I'm also turning it into a blackwork design. So I will be coming out with basically the same general, the same design that you could do either in cross-stitch or blackwork. I am stitching it because I want to in the blackwork version. So this is the beginning of it. The center part it'll be 9 of these. So if you can picture, the center will be 9, and then starts the first ring. This is a 40 count from Silkweaver Deep Denim, I think is what it's called. I am still working, like the cross stitch design, it's done. You know, it's like I don't even need to stitch the model to know, yep, that's it. The blackwork pieces I'm still trying to work through. So so it's good that I'm stitching and kind of figuring out some of the designing parts of it. Using B5200 for the thread, with the possibility, this is a little bit of playing around that might come out, need to kind of work with the possibility of using something else as a filler for some of the places where I need to fill in. So more on that as I evolve. It's going to be a large piece. I just accept this. But sometimes you just do large pieces. On 40 count, it's going to be 18 inches. It's circular, so 18-inch diameter. I have it currently on Q-snaps because I don't own, the largest scroll bars that I own, which are, I guess are supposed to be like 24-inch, you know, but they really only fit fabric that's like 22 inches, and that's just, you know, not quite enough margin for comfortable for me. Although I might decide to do it. Like right now, I'm okay. When I get to the point where I'm going to need to extend beyond the Q-snaps, I don't know. I've not been a Q-snap person. It's Flosstube. I thank you, Flosstube, for introducing. I knew about Q-snaps. I didn't know how popular they were until Flosstube. I have this set. I am using it because it's the only thing I can use right now. And what I will use when this gets larger, we'll see. Having a hard time justifying buying larger scroll bars, which I sort of want to, but just having more bars that I'm just like, when am I going to use them again? We'll see. Yeah. So this is just a little preview of a design. If you're on Instagram, keep your eyes on me. I'm worksbyabc on Instagram, and I will post some progress photos there. I love this blue color. I think this is just like perfect for what my vision was for what I wanted to do. So I loved it. And then talk about doing things on a whim. Today's Monday, Saturday. I was at Michael's because I needed needles. I just needed to pop in, needed 28 needles, size 28 needles. I saw, and I don't even know how to pronounce it correctly. Coloris is how my brain has been saying it. Coloris. Color is COLORIS thread, hanging with the DMCs. And I'd known about this thread from DMC. I believe it's thanks to Mary Corbet's blog. I'll link her below because of what I'm about to say. This came out, I believe, a couple years ago. Maybe I've seen it at an LNS somewhere along the line. I know when I first read about it, I thought, oh, DMC is trying to get into the over-dye game. They came out with their color variations earlier. Now, here's an interesting question that I was on DMC's website. I don't have a good answer for, but you know what, since I have my color card right here, here's an interesting thing. So even in their brand new color card, even though this is brand new to this year, these have been out for 2 years, this line is not in this color card. Color variations is in this color card. These two columns with the 4,000 numbers are color variations. These colors are also 4,000s, but they all start with 4-5, so they're 4,500s. This row right here, which I think in my mind I thought were also color variations, are not. Like if you go online and you look up, many of these are 2-digit numbers with a few going into the early 3 digits. They're under their regular, regular 6-stranded embroidery thread, and they're just called mixed colors. So I don't know what like the history is, or what DMC thinks of these. They're not the color variations. And I got off track. Anyway, I was surprised to discover that Michael's is now selling these. And so I actually picked up 4 that just appealed to my eyes. Now, my information is coming from Mary Corbet's blog because it's more information from there than anything I could find on the DMC website, which is not a good thing for DMC, I just gotta say. So they each are made up of 4 DMC colors, and they have short lengths, short, would you call it repeat lengths, of where the change happens. So the color variations, and I'm going to forget the numbers, but the color variations maybe change every, I'm just putting this out there, 4 inches. But on these threads, they change every like 2.5 inches. Or, those numbers might not be correct, but they're shorter. I know that this is shorter than color variations. So like there we go. There's the darker purple. There's the lighter green. There's the darker green. Now I'm all confused here in terms of, so those numbers aren't right. Here we go. Darker purple, lighter purple, darker green, lighter green. Darker purple, lighter purple, darker green, lighter green. So what I loved about the, and this is a blog post from 2 years ago, I will put a link to that one because she also created, she took what she got from DMC and just organized it better. A list of the, again, you tell me how you're pronouncing that, Coloris, and the 4 DMC solids that go with it. Okay, so here is the one I just pulled out. Here are the 4 colors, the colors that DMC is saying make up the 2 greens and the 2 purples that make up this Coloris. On a whim, I started stitching something. So this is a little preview of another design I've actually already worked up. I'm not sure what I think of this stuff. And it's because of the abrupt changes. So I've played with some, I mean, I love variegated thread when they're the same color tone, the same color family. Go light to dark within the blue range. Let me play with that. This jumped so, all right, so here's the solid. This is the solid that's just going to be like the accent to it. Here's the variegated. Like literally, I would do a stitch in purple, like finish that, come up again, and immediately the green would be starting. There was so little spaces where you would see that, and you know, the best thing I could do is compare it. So this, which I'm using a Silken Colors, which has grays and like burgundy kind of purplish. And I can play with manipulating or maneuvering this. And I could see as I would, you know, be stitching one stitch and, ooh, gray's kind of finishing off. I can see what's going on. And do I want that stitch there? Do I want to move it? Like I've played when I was doing this. Like you could even tell in this center area, I was doing a lot of jumping around. Whereas in the outer areas, I was not jumping around and allowing the flow. Does that make sense? The flow of the color. Light gray, dark gray, burgundy, burgundy to dark gray. Like allowing the flow to go. Whereas you don't see that in the center because I was doing the jump thing. Okay? This jumps so quickly. This thread jumps so quickly. You don't have those gradual changes. I would be curious to hear from anyone who has like stitched. I mean, this is part of a bigger design. Again, you'll see it when it's all together. I'm hoping that I can make myself do at least this piece so I could just get the effect of it. It was totally on a whim that I was like, you know what? I really want to try stitching with this stuff. I get it. It's DMC trying to test out this market. I mean, test it out. It's been around for 2 years. Whether it's going to be a long-term stay with it, who knows? But in my ways of thinking about lots of things, and that includes the designing world, I like to think about trying out all the cool stuff that's out there, yes, and also being practical. I know there are some people that really only purchase from big box stores or really only have access to those DMCs that are there, or maybe don't purchase online, or financially stick with things that are DMC cost as opposed to hand-dyed thread cost. I get that. And so I am curious to test out whether something like this is a good thing to try, or is going to be as pretty and make somebody as happy as a color combination that you could get from other sources. I'm trying it out, that's all. So again, this was a project started on a whim, and now I got too many things going that I really want to not have so many things going. What else is on my list, people? Magnifiers. So, oh, no, wait, no, let's do this first. So, I don't think I showed these on a video, but they so deserve to be shown on a video. Saho, who is just wonderful and amazing, she has stitched for me a number of my pieces to use for models that I had for the New Jersey retreat and then for StitchCon, including getting some sent to me like right before StitchCon. And I don't know, I don't remember what got shown as a finished thing. I'm pretty sure this one did not. I got this frame in before StitchCon, after New Jersey, before StitchCon. So I love the framing, worked out beautifully, loved it. There's 2 pieces that, when she stitched the second one, I'm going to mess it up. Which one was first? Birds and the Bees, Flower Vase and Leaves. I want the frames to be identical. The frame was back ordered. I have to wait. I just realized that this was the week they said it might be in, so I need to contact them to see if it's in yet. So that one is not framed. This piece, oh wait, did I show you? I didn't show you. I brought these up. I should show you. So that was one of my patterns. I think she stitched this either exactly with the colors as, not exact, but pretty close to the colors that are charted. The green looks different, but I'm not sure about that. Beautiful job. Thank you, Saho. This pattern, 6 pages from 1603. These are pages from a book from 1603. I also have in here a way to the border so that you could just do one square, realizing that one square might be all you want. And she did one using this beautiful variegated thread. And I finished this in a cube finish kind of way, styrofoam cube. And again, this was a finish right before StitchCon, so it could go in the trunk show there. And I just wanted to make sure to show all of you this. I don't remember. Have you seen this yet? I don't remember. Beautiful. This is Lady Evelyn's filet lace. It is the larger of the two. Love the contrast of the blue and the white. This is pretty small. Was this on 25 count over 1? Beautiful, beautiful work. I just had put a label on it for this trunk show. So I definitely wanted to make sure that you all could see that, and thank you so much, Saho, for your beautiful work there. Can I talk briefly about magnifying things? Because I'm curious and be interested in your thoughts, and if anyone had any help. So you may have seen people showing off their fancy dancy and oh so sexy, as people have said, these. So this came up after the New Jersey retreat, or somebody had them at the New Jersey retreat and apparently had shared, and then a whole bunch of Instagram posts happened right after the New Jersey retreat, and a whole bunch of us purchased these. And a number of floss tubers have talked about them, pros and cons. They come with 5 different lenses. And if you don't mind, wearing something, and this is without, there's also a light. You can put in batteries and get a light, and this is without even the weight of the battery on it. I do find it kind of hurts my nose. But more than that is about the focal point distance and why it doesn't work ideally for me. And like Ingeborg did this on her recent video where she had them on and then she was trying to show for her, and this is, did I put in the thickest lens? This is the second thickest. So this is 2.5. The thickest is 3.5. Oh, I know why I put this in. So for me to be able to see like what's written on my piece of paper here, it has to be pretty close. I don't want to be this close to my stitching. And it's why I've realized that magnifying options that I wear are not ideal for me. Now, I wanted to show what I have used and why I like it so much. And number one, it's portable. You can put in batteries and do a whole light thing, and I have actually never used it with the batteries and the light, so I can't even speak about the light. So some people saw me at New Jersey and at StitchCon using this. It goes around my neck. I know when I first purchased it, I was worried, is this going to cause me any neck problems? No, not at all, okay? And what I like is the ability to completely adjust this because of what this is. And that way, and I'm usually sitting down at my scroll frame, that I am adjusting the stitching. If here's the stitching and here's the magnifier, I'm adjusting stitching and magnifier. I don't need to move my head, if that makes sense, which is what I would have to do wearing these. One of the things that is wonderful about retreats is you get to see all kinds of people's setups. A lot of people who are local or who could drive could literally bring like their entire setup, whereas other people had to think about what fits, what works. I mean, this is the magnifying thing that I've been using here at home better than the previous thing I did. I've been poking around and looking. So, but here's the thing, and this is what I'd be so interested to know if anyone can help me out here. The one thing about this is that it comes with, the highest one is a 3.5 magnifying lens. And when you read descriptions of magnifiers, look carefully to see how big it magnifies. And I'm not talking about the little, you know, this little spot thing, because like that's impossible to stitch with, you know. I'm talking about the main thing, because a lot of the magnifiers are like 1.5 or 2. Okay, that's not what I want. What if I, like, so what I learned, and I didn't even realize this till I was thinking about with the glasses and everything, is that I had to go back. I got this at Hobby Lobby. You know, its retail price is $39.99. You use your 40% off coupon. You know, don't pay full price. And then I had to go back to look at the description online. This is 2.5 magnifying. That's really good. Is it possible to get something like this and even higher in like a 3.5 magnifying? Because what if I wanted to go crazy and stitch on 55 count over 1 or something like that, which I've been playing with and needing to use literally this little guy, okay? Or the wearing these with like 2 lights on and everything. And I've been poking around trying to find, does something like this exist? I've tried a floor stand thing, and I can't get a good height business, and I can't find one that's got the right, you know, that's got a high thing. I want the most flexible option, and this has proven to be the most flexible thing. And like I said, 2.5 magnifying is pretty good. If anyone knows of anything that's higher than that, I would love to know about it. I will share that while at StitchCon, while I was struggling with the 48 count green linen that I was trying to do over 2 and figure it out, and the lighting in there wasn't great, even though I had a little clip-on light. Jen, Felicity Stitches, I knew she would have her glasses. I said, do you have those with you? Oh, yes. And so I was using them. And what's so funny is that what happened at New Jersey happened at StitchCon, that somebody saw me wearing them, and, you know, they were passed around, and at the table, at least 1, if not 2 people, whipped out the phone, was on Amazon, and ordering them right then and there. Because for what they are, $15? And again, depending on your comfort level with wearing something and with the focal distance, and it's probably, the focal distance issue is because I'm trying to use the highest magnifying lens. If you were using like the 1.5 or the 2, I think you've got a more distance to play with, and then it might be fine. And for people who use other kind of magnifying things that are more like glass wearing stuff, it's fine. Have I talked about everything? Oh, I was briefly going to say, I've also hit some book sales. And just the reason why I go to book sales is, you know, sometimes you just find the treasures. Here's a couple of examples of treasures for $1 each. This is Jane Zimmerman. She's, I'm pretty sure she still teaches. She does all kinds of amazing stuff. This is a book. I don't know if you could still buy this book. I forgot to go to her website. I thought it might have been a book she was giving with a class. I mean, it's almost how it seems. But it does say if you want to purchase additional copies of this book for $20. It was written in 1999. But this book was written for educational purposes to assist my students. $1, people. Orna Willis, who is still around. She does amazing counted canvas work stuff. This is a self-published book about her design principles and color theory principles. This is not on her website at all. This was published in 2000. I didn't realize she'd been around since 2000. This is like from the early part of her career. Right now she does a lot with selling threads and all kinds of things like that, as well as some of her designs on her website. This was a $40 book in the year 2000. She was selling this for $40, self-published. Yeah, $1. Okay. This is why I go to used book sales, people. All right, I'm now a little over an hour. It's been really glad to be back here with you guys. And again, I'll just say, support in this community has meant an awful lot. So keep reaching out to people, especially those that could use a little bit of having someone reach out to them. And thank you to everyone with sharing who you are and all the pieces. I've so looked forward to connecting back up with my Flosstube community, and till next time.